Welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show, hosted by Mason Kern. He keeps his nose to the ground to report on what's trending in professional and college sports, to inform, enlighten, and entertain. And now it's
the Sports Watchdog.
the Sports Watchdog, Mason Kern.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060 Phoenix. I'm your host, Mason Kern, here with you every Sunday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. Obviously, I'm certainly glad you decided to join me this morning, and as always, I do have some great stuff in my kennel. Today, we'll be hearing from the winner of the American Cornhole League's Pro Invitational back on July 4th, Frank Modlin, as well as former NASCAR driver making his long-awaited return, Casey Mears. I'll also be covering some sports hot topics, and for you basketball-specific fans, interesting happenings on the hardwood. So we'll slide on over to the soccer pitch as we continue our World Cup 2018 coverage. Obviously, the tournament taking place in Russia this year, and we are on to the final. And I want to kind of give you guys a semifinal recap as we kind of look ahead toward the final, because this matchup in the final between Croatia and France, it's been a long road for both of these teams. Now, in their semifinal games, you had Croatia taking on England, and the winner of this was going to take on France because obviously France has already beaten Belgium to this point. But I'll start with Croatia and England just because I felt that was the more exciting game, at least in my opinion. And everyone, at least all the Englanders and even others internationally, had proclaimed that it's coming home. It's meaning the World Cup trophy, it's finally going to come, and England is going to claim victory. They've had such a successful World Cup thus far. All they have to do is beat Croatia, and they're in the final. They have a chance, and they take the early lead. They take the 1-0 lead. All they have to do is park the bus and hold the lead, but guess what? Croatia didn't back down. Luka Modric, probably arguably a top 5 player in the world, at least in my opinion at this point in time, has overcome so much adversity throughout his entire life, wills his team, he's the captain, they get an equalizer, and then are able to come back and rip the heart out of all of England's dreams and hopes, and they come back and win 2-1 in a match that really showed how much heart this Croatian team has, because they were not expected to get to this point. They had a 3% chance of winning the World Cup, and now they're in the final, taking on a very good France team. So, France, moving on over now, I should say, to that France versus Belgium game. Belgium comes into this undefeated at this point, still had not lost a World Cup game, whereas France hadn't lost either, whereas France did not win every single one of their games. So, Belgium, I don't know if they were favored in terms of the paper, but if you look at it, France just has more star power. They are the better team. And the better team just won. They took the 1-0 lead and never looked back. Granted, some people blame the refs, but you're going to get that in every game. The refs are never right, no matter how right they are. That's just kind of how it works, and refs know that when they sign up for this job. But, you look ahead, and I think France is also just the better team, looking forward to France and Croatia in the World Cup final. I believe that they will become victorious. They will be your 2018 World Cup champions. And then maybe in 2022, France loses in the knockout stage and continues this World Cup curse. But either of these two teams very deserving. France and Croatia. You have Antoine Griezmann and Paul Pogba leading the attack, and then Raphael Varane in the back in the defensive unit for this France team. I just think they're going to be too strong, too overpowering for Mandzukic and Luka Modric as they try to will Croatia to a World Cup victory. But let me know who you think is going to win on social media at @sportswatchdog on Twitter and at @sportswatchdog on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the 2018 FIFA World Cup. Is it going to be Croatia or is it going to be France? Now, don't go anywhere, guys. The Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio and 1060 will be right back after this short break.
If you're ready for a boast-worthy staycation, the AAA Four Diamond Hermosa Inn, located in Scottsdale's Paradise Valley, is for you. This luxury hotel offers authentic Arizona character and charm. Its 43 newly renovated casitas are nestled in a garden setting with breathtaking views of the lush desert and Camelback Mountain. Most accommodations include deep soaking tubs, beehive fireplaces, and private patios. Other property features include a lively bar and communal seating areas, on-site painting classes, free-use beach cruisers, seasonal poolside yoga, hot tub facilities, a business suite, and dining to die for. The Hermosa Inn is an ideal locale for small group getaways, from weddings, intimate family vacations, and bachelorette weekends, even golf outings, board meetings, and executive retreats. And its award-winning on-site restaurant, Lawns, is renowned for globally inspired Arizona fare, complemented by a subterranean wine cellar. You can see amazing photos of this and much more at hermosainn.com. That's hermosainn.com.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Once again, you're listening to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. I'm your host, Mason Kern, and joining us now on the line is Casey Mears, a former longtime NASCAR driver who won the 2007 Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Casey's team is currently working on putting together a group for him to return to the racetrack in 2019 to partake in the Speed Energy Stadium Super Truck Series. He's planning on making a splash in his return to racing and just recently moved out to the Phoenix area from Charlotte. So with that, he's here to give us some more info. Hey, Casey, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, like I said. So first off, Casey, why now? Why are you deciding that this is the right time to get back on the racetrack and in the NASCAR circuit?
Well, I mean, I drove in NASCAR for several years and had great opportunities there, worked with a lot of good people, and lived back in North Carolina for about 17 years. So, being a West Coast guy and growing up in California, I grew up in Bakersfield, California, wanted to get back out towards the West and spent a lot of time in Arizona, throughout the years when I was, doing NASCAR. I'd shoot back here and had a sand car, I'd go out to Glamis, played around with UTVs out in the desert and just really loved it, enjoyed it. My dad used to off-road race a lot, and I did too when I was younger, and we'd race out in this area growing up. So decided that at this point in my career, it was time to come back this way and get more involved in the dirt and off-road stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. We've been working hard on trying to put together a package for the Stadium Super Truck Series, but I have a pretty diverse background. I've done NASCAR, raced open wheel and IndyCar, I've done several different types of things. Sports cars, won the 24 Hours of Daytona a few years back. So because of that, what I want to do is do the off-road series, the Stadium Off-Road Series, but then also, looking to maybe do the Daytona 500, the Indy 500, and the Daytona 24 Hour again. So working hard at trying to put a really cool one-off package together.
Yeah, definitely super well-rounded. And, I mean, you mentioned messing around out here in Arizona. There's certainly no shortage of off-road and dirt and sand, obviously, out here in Phoenix for sure for you to kind of practice and play around in. But, I mean, looking ahead, like I mentioned, and like you say, you're seeking to return for, specifically at least for the first one, for the 2019 Speed Energy Stadium Super Truck Series. So why this track in particular?
Well, I mean, the series, Robbie Gordon started the series. He's a friend of mine that I've raced with for years, and it just has a really unique flair to it. And one thing I like about it is it's off-road trucks, similar to what my dad and my brother raced, back in the late 80s, early 90s. It used to be the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Series, and they did it inside stadiums. Well, Robbie's kind of put a new flair on it and is paired up with IndyCar venues and NASCAR venues where he's actually built some metal ramps that he puts out on the tracks, like at Long Beach Grand Prix, Detroit, some of these other road courses. So now it's off-road trucks on street circuits, which is a really unique form of racing. It looks like a lot of fun. I participated in a stadium event he held out in Lake Elsinore area at Diamond Stadium last December and just had a blast with it. So it's something that's really catching on. I feel like it appeals to the new the new fan. I mean, right now you got a lot of young people that like getting their tidbits pretty quickly. Everything on social media. A lot of people don't like to sit through a 4-hour NASCAR event. They like to get some quick, cool action, and that's kind of what this is. It's more along the X Games side of things. They're shorter races. Lots of action-packed, big jumps. Guys rolling over. So I just feel like it's a good fit for today's crowd, and it's a lot of fun.
So then, do you think that kind of race, that kind of expertise and well-roundedness is kind of going to be the future of this sport? Do you think that's where it's heading?
Well, I think that it's good to be diverse when it comes into the series, because here you are racing. You'll be racing on dirt periodically, asphalt a lot, and it's a truck that rolls a lot. It has a lot of movement, and so I think being well-rounded and racing off-road, racing sports cars, racing Indy cars, racing stock cars, being diverse is going to help you be successful in this series, and I like it because it has a little bit of everything. It reminds me of some of the short track racing we do in stock cars, yet obviously the off-road stuff that we did in the past with the jumps and then the technical side of the road course as far as outbraking a competitor and hitting your line just right. It really has a lot of elements of different things I've done in the past, and it makes it intriguing and fun to watch. And the one thing that I like about what Robbie's doing is it's a fairly spec series, right? So it's as far as motorsports and what a sponsor is able to get for the price is huge, because Robbie's kept it pretty spec. It's not outrageously expensive, and like a lot of motorsports are, and yet it's really entertaining. And his whole goal, is not necessarily to make it the very best truck out there, but make all the trucks the same, so that the competition is in the driver's hands. The success is in the driver's hands, and that's one thing that makes it exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, kind of evens the playing field a little bit. But you mentioned before your brother and your father and their kind of endeavors in this sport, and I understand there is a long track record of racing in your family. So first off, can you just kind of give our listeners a little background into the family history, and then do you think that because of them that you were kind of destined for this career in racing in general?
Yeah, I mean, just to hit on that last part of the question for sure. The fact that I grew up in a racing family, I think without even knowing it, I was going down the road of pursuing this path, just having fun, and before I knew it, I really developed a resume, which was, pretty fortunate, really. Here I am having fun doing races with my dad and my brother, and I'm gaining experience and having a good time. And by the time I was 12, 13 years old, I had somewhat of a resume. So, but to go back to the start of that question, my grandfather started racing back in 1946, was living in Kansas at the time. I think in the 50s, 60s, at some point, my family, my grandfather and my grandmother moved out to California. And my dad and my uncle were both racing off-road with my grandfather at the time. And then, from there, they split off and went down different paths. My dad dabbled in Indy cars a little bit, but my uncle went on to run Indy cars full time. And then my dad stayed in off-road. He dabbled in Indy cars, did some stock car racing, but then ended up making a living out of off-road. So my uncle, won the Indy 500 4 times, and my dad won the Baja 1000 4 times. And through all that, my brother raced alongside my dad. They were teammates in off-road when it was the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Series. My brother did a lot of desert racing as well. My cousin Clint and I grew up racing together through off-road and open wheel Indy Lights, Indy cars, a lot of that kind of stuff. So really had just a rich history in racing. And all the while I'm growing up in it, going to all these events and watching everybody race. And I started getting into it at a young age, racing three-wheelers at 5, went on to go-karts, went from go-karts to four-wheelers, got into off-road, ended up doing a lot of, different kinds of motorsports.
Definitely, like I said, a long history of racing, but also a long history of success. I mean, like you mentioned, so many victories and so much success in your family history, and that even extended to you. I mean, like I said, you you yourself won the 2007 Coca-Cola 600. So take me back to 2007. You're in the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and you're racing and you win. So what was your approach to that race, and then what was the feeling after you won that race?
Oh, well, it was awesome. I mean, I obviously won a bunch of races, in the lower levels coming up through the ranks, but to win in NASCAR, at the highest level, and then also win one of the biggest events was huge. At that point, Memorial Day weekend was a big weekend for my family just because the Indy 500's held on the same weekend, and
of course,
it's fun because my dad having so much success in off-road and my uncle having so much success in Indy cars. It was cool that here I am in a different venue, different style form of racing from what those guys typically did in the past. And, won a race. My parents were there, so it was really cool. And it was a, Memorial Day weekend. The sponsor on the car that year was National Guard. So it was a huge win for the National Guard on Memorial Day weekend. And obviously too, at that point, living in Charlotte, that's a big race that everybody wants to win just because it's in our backyard. Most guys live in the Charlotte area that race in NASCAR, and it was fun having friends and family around.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I mean, lots of versatility in your family history and then extending through you as well. Really cool. Well, Casey, running out of time, thank you so much. Where can our listeners or any potential sponsors for the Casey Mears race team go to connect with you?
Well, my Twitter handle and my Instagram handle are CJ Mears Gang. So if you just CJ Mears Gang, and that's my Twitter handle. So if anybody wants to connect through that, that'd be great. We're trying to get it put together, and we'd love to see somebody come on board.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure to connect with him on those platforms. Thank you so much again, Casey, for your time. All right, everyone, the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. Be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Want to take your decor to another level? Consider Jellyfish Art, a leading supplier of live jellyfish and their specialized ornamental aquariums and products. This includes Jellyfish Cylinder Nano, an all-inclusive kit with 3 sustainably aquacultured live moon jellyfish and everything needed to start. Also great as a gift, they're an exciting light and life source enhancing any space, living rooms, bedrooms, offices, or anywhere. Learn more at jellyfishart.com.
Hey there, everybody. You're listening to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. I'm your host, Mason Kern, and joining us now is Frank Modlin, the winner of the July 4th American Cornhole League Pro Invitational in Coney Island. That's right, the game you know and love, Cornhole, is now a professional sport. And Frank is here today to share some more info on the league and his most recent professional victory. So with that, hey, Frank, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show. So glad you could join us today.
Hey, Mason, thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, thank you so much again for taking the time. So first off, Frank, I know I kind of just mentioned you went on and won your first professional victory or another one at the July 4th. So can you give our listeners just a brief little background and some more info about the American Cornhole League?
Yeah, the American Cornhole League has been in existence for 3 years now, and my goodness, the amount of ground that they've covered in 3 years is phenomenal. The sport is just evolving at a rate that it's just mind blowing to us. All of us players that are involved in the sport. But the ACL is played in probably 3/4 of the United States, and we've even had Canada represented this year at the Championship of Bags tournaments that is going on currently right now in Cherokee, North Carolina at Harris. But yeah, it is really crazy everything that's going on with the sport.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the growth of something that was a hobby, really, and now that it's turned into such a big thing that so many people love doing, especially its widespread impact. Really cool to see that growth. And now, like I said, usually, or from myself included, it starts off as just a hobby. But for people who want to get more competitive, and even for beginners who might just want to join the professional circuit or the league, how do people sign up to play? And can anyone sign up? Can beginners just go ahead and sign up?
I tell you what, that I've got Stacey Moore with the American Cornhole League. He's the commissioner of the American Cornhole League. That might be a better question for him. They have directors throughout the state, throughout the United States, and players can play in their local regions. But I'll let him chime in here.
Hey, Stacey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah. So back to the question. Like I said, I mean, it starts off kind of as a hobby for some people, but for people who do want to sign up, can beginners just go ahead and sign up? And how does that process really work?
Yeah, we have tournaments for all skill levels. So we have beginners, we call it our tailgate division. We have social players, competitive, and our advanced players. We run over 5,000 tournaments all over the country. Our tagline is anyone can play, anyone can win. So all you have to do to get started with us is to visit IPlayCornhole.com.
And Stacey, one last thing. Now that we've seen this kind of widespread growth, what else are you guys trying to do to kind of get people more involved and say, hey, this is a great league, and we're really looking to spread this initiative?
Yeah, we're looking to make a lot of inroads into juniors and get a lot of the juniors playing competitively, convert those people that are playing recreationally at tailgates and that sort of thing to take the game a little bit more serious and try it out as a competitive sport. We're doing a lot of charity events. So Cornhole is a great activity that can raise money for causes. That's going on all over the country right now in a lot of different forms, and we're going to try to organize that in a fashion so we can start to calculate what the charitable impact is for our sport. And then we're going international. So we did the first ever World Cup here at our championships this week, and we're just going to be expanding into other countries pretty aggressively.
Well, very cool, Stacey. Thanks for taking the time. Now, Frank, take me back now to July 4th, Independence Day, at the Pro Invitational in Coney Island. Can you kind of describe the process and how you kind of go about playing this game? Because obviously so many different people have different tactics and stuff. And then take me back and how were you able to kind of secure the victory at the Pro Invitational?
Yes, that was actually a unique tournament. That was a invitational tournament. So this was the American Cornhole League's professional invitational tournament, or Pro Invitational. So the way this thing worked, they did a random draw. So you didn't play with your normal partner. You played with a partner that was, you were randomly placed with.
Cool.
So I ended up playing with Eric Anderson out of Ohio, and we had never teamed up before. So that kind of made this tournament a little bit unique. You had to adapt to a different playing partner, but it was awesome. Eric played extremely well, and it seems like we just kind of gelled together. But I started out playing the sport recreationally, just like anybody else. Actually, the first time I ever saw the game of cornhole played was at a campground. My family was, camping for the weekend, and I kind of joined in with the guys, and I got hooked, and have been hooked ever since.
It's a really cool backstory for sure, and I mean that's really how it kind of starts. Really, I feel like I said before, I mean maybe starts out as a hobby, you get really good. Now it's a professional sport, so you're able to kind of use those skills. And you say that tournament was a unique one, but I feel like cornhole itself is a unique sport. So why is this sport so unique in your opinion, and what differentiates it from all the others?
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the biggest things is how player friendly this sport is. It doesn't matter what age you are. We've got everything from juniors right on up through seniors that play the sport competitively, and it's so accessible. As far as people that play it recreational, there's probably not many garages around the country now that doesn't have a set of cornhole boards in them. And you can't go to the beach anymore without seeing, boards set up on the beach or at a tailgating event. And it's really adaptable. If you've got younger people playing, you can, adjust the length of the boards. So it makes it, very, very player friendly. So I think that's probably what makes it so unique. Is it's the simplicity. But when you can, really master it, you can carry it right on up to the professional level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems so simple, but then you actually play, and for the beginners, it is actually quite difficult, I will say from personal experience. I'm not the best at it, so I definitely need some practice before I try my hand at the pro circuit. But, well, Frank, thank you so much for your time. Where can our listeners go to connect with you or find more info about the ACL?
Oh, it's very easy. You just go to IPlayCornhole.com, and their phrase is, anyone can play, anyone can win.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure to check out the website and get involved if you so choose. Thank you so much again for your time, Frank. All right, everyone, the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060. We'll be right back after this short break.
Know a child needing to get and stay on a healthy track? The award-winning fictional children's storybook, Kids Making Healthy Choices, story to inspire fit, weight-wise kids, can help. In this first-of-its-kind book, important health themes served up in an easy-to-read style intended to help motivate overweight kids to smart lifestyle choices. This empowering and educational book is available in both a boys and girls edition. Find it at Amazon.com.
You ready to hoop it up? This is Happenings on the Hardwood.
All right, guys, as always at the end of the Sports Watchdog Radio Show here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060, we're going to pivot on over to the hardwood as we look into NBA free agency as it's kind of dwindling down, and a look into NBA Summer League. How are the top prospects doing? Well, they're doing pretty well. Trae Young, the number 5 pick who ended up going to the Atlanta Hawks in the Luka Doncic trade with the Dallas Mavericks. He started off really rough in Summer League, I'm not going to lie, but he's really picked it up his last few games. He's looking like a pretty promising prospect. And then you look at the number 1 pick, DeAndre Ayton, out of Arizona for the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of expectations on him and a lot of hype to live up to. Well, he's living up to it so far. He's posted double-double in nearly all of his games in terms of points and rebounds. And his overall production for this Suns team has been very encouraging. You also have Mikal Bridges, who's played really well. He was acquired as a draft day trade as Phoenix traded their 16th pick to move up to number 10 to get Bridges from Philadelphia. And he's been a bright spot for this team. And then their second-round draft pick, Elie Okobo, he's played really well, too. He's really putting up a good fight as to why he might be the Suns' starting point guard next season. So your Phoenix Suns are really looking promising in terms of their future. Devin Booker just signed the Supermax on his rookie contract, so he is going to be under the Phoenix Suns' kind of finger and hopefully lead this team to the playoffs, because he hasn't made it there yet. And I would love to see, just as I'm sure all of you would love to see, playoff Devin Booker. He is just a menace on the court, and I think that one of the main staples in terms of his overall production is his offensive game, obviously, but him on the defensive end is very underrated, and I think that's an aspect of his game that he's worked very hard on developing this offseason to become a more well-rounded player and earn that 5-year, $158 million extension. And the Suns have not been that quiet this offseason. They picked up Trevor Ariza on a 1-year, $15 million contract. They took him away from the Houston Rockets, which is not an easy thing to do, especially because the Rockets were the best regular season team in basketball last year. So the Suns are poised to not be the worst team in basketball. They just have to learn to play together under new coach Kokoskov, and hopefully the Suns will be better than the Suns that we saw last year and even the year before. Probably will not see a regression. We'll hopefully see them take steps forward. Now, looking to the other lottery teams, the Sacramento Kings, their pick at number 2, Marvin Bagley III, has played pretty well as well. Luka Doncic for the Dallas Mavericks. But I think the real star in Summer League and the biggest MVP candidate right now for me, and this is no bias here, guys, but out of Los Angeles, the Lakers, Josh Hart, the sophomore, has been playing out of his mind for the Lake Show. And this is a player who, out of Villanova, knows how to win championships. And he's really leading this young Lakers team to something special. They're looking to repeat as NBA Summer League champions for the first time in NBA history. No team has ever done that. So, obviously, it's Summer League. You can't judge too much based on the competition, but still very promising to see these young guys playing really well. Now, looking at free agency, there are still some marquee free agents left on the board, most notably probably Clint Capella, the restricted free agent out of Houston, because their talks have been not so great. He wants a max contract. Houston can't afford it. So we'll see where Clint Capella ends up. But most recently, Isaiah Thomas, who, yeah, you probably were thinking, oh, he should command a max contract when he was in Boston. Well, guess what? He just signed a 1-year, $2 million. That's it, $2 million contract with the Denver Nuggets. So this is, I think, is more of a prove yourself type of deal, so he can possibly earn more money next season when the teams have more money to spend. But it definitely is sad to see Thomas's regression from going to a $150 million to $200 million max contract player to a 1-year, $2 million deal. Very sad, but we'll see where the rest of the free agents end up. I think this next season should be very interesting. And, basketball is my favorite sport, if you guys couldn't already tell. So, yeah, let me know where you guys think the rest of the free agents are going to go. I think this offseason has been pretty interesting.